Hi, welcome to another installment of Prairie Wonderland. This is part of the ongoing Lessons with Laura series. If you're new here, my name is Laura Ingalls Gunn. A few weeks ago in one of the early videos, an activity that we did was planting holiday paperweights. And we talked about how the pioneers and Victorians would bring greenery into their home during the holiday season. And look at this, just yesterday, the first paperweight bloomed. The smell is so wonderful, and I'm really excited. My husband has made some wood boxes from a section of fencing that had fallen down on our property, and we've repurposed it and tied a little bit of twine, and we'll be giving these out to our neighbors. And I think that'll be a fun gift that will be greatly appreciated. One of the things that I love about the Little House books is when Laura shares the various gifts she and her family often give each other. And it is generally a great use of creativity, repurposing objects from old scraps of fabric, paper, and so much more. Little House Christmas Volume 2. I actually also have Volume 1, and I bring these out every year because I just love them. And if you also happen to have this book, we'll be starting on page 61. Laura sat thinking. She was making a little picture frame of cross-stitch in wools on thin, silver-colored cardboard. Up the sides and across the top, she had made a pattern of small blue flowers and green leaves. Now she was outlining the picture opening in blue, while she put the tiny needle through the perforations in the cardboard and drew the fine colored wool carefully after it. She was thinking how wistfully Carrie had looked at the beautiful thing. She decided to give it to Carrie for Christmas. Someday, perhaps, she could make another for herself. How fortunate it was that she had finished knitting the lace for her petticoat. She would give that to Mary. And to Ma, she would give the cardboard hair receiver that she had already embroidered to match the picture frame. Ma could hang it on the corner of her looking glass, and when she combed her hair, she would put the combings in it to use later in the hair switch she was making. But what can we do for Pa? She asked. I declare I don't know, Ma worried. I can't think of a thing. I've got some pennies, Carrie said. There's my college money, Mary began, but Ma said, No, Mary, we won't touch that. I have 10 cents, Laura said thoughtfully. How many pennies have you, Carrie? I have 5, Carrie told her. We'd need 25 to get Pa a pair of suspenders, Laura said. He needs a new pair. I have a dime, said Ma. So that is settled, Laura. You and Carrie had better go and buy them as soon as Pa has gone to work tomorrow morning. Next day, when their morning work was done, Laura and Carrie crossed the snowy street to Mr. Hartthorne's store. Mr. Hartthorne was there alone, and the shelves were bare. On both long walls there were only a few pairs of men's boots and women's shoes, and some bolts of calico. The bean barrel was empty. The cracker barrel was empty. The little brine in the bottom of the pork barrel had no pork in it. The long, flat codfish box held only a little salt scattered on its bottom. The dried apple box and the dried blackberry box were empty. "I'm sold out of groceries till the train gets here," Mr. Hartthorne said. "I was expecting a bill of groceries when the train stops." Some pretty handkerchiefs, combs, and hairpins, and 2 pairs of suspenders were in the showcase. Laura and Carrie looked at the suspenders. They were a plain, dull gray. "Shall I do them up for you?" Mr. Hartthorne asked. Laura did not like to say no, but she looked at Carrie and saw that Carrie hoped she would. "No, thank you, Mr. Hartthorne," Laura said. "We will not take them now." Out in the glittering cold again, she said to Carrie, "Let's go to Loftus' store and see if we can't find prettier ones." They bent their heads against the strong cold wind and struggled along the icy path on the store porches till they reached the other dry goods and groceries. That store was bare and echoing too. Every barrel and box was empty, and where the canned goods had been, there were only 2 flat cans of oysters. "I'm expecting a stock of groceries when the train comes tomorrow," Mr. Loftus told them. "It won't get here any too soon either." In his showcase was a pair of blue suspenders with small red flowers, beautifully machine woven along them, and bright brass buckles. Laura had never seen such pretty suspenders. They were just right for Pa. I love this story because not only was it the perfect gift, but Laura and Carrie were able to purchase those suspenders for the exact amount that they had. Now, my son Ian has always appreciated a more heartfelt gift, and a few years ago, I decided that he should have a pair of suspenders inspired by that story. And you can see that they're the old-fashioned style of suspenders. And they even have the brass buckles on them. Now, my friend has an embroidery machine, and so I took her over some blue cotton heavy twill, and she was able to stitch the design on them, and then I sewed them up and attached all of these hardware to the suspenders. And we took my son's photo wearing the suspenders, and they are featured in the book that I have been working on for historical fashions inspired by the Little House books. Now, it is very possible that the design on them was very different on Pa's suspenders. Unfortunately, we don't know what the design was. And also too, sometimes suspenders that were embroidered like this were made on silk, but we wanted a heavy-duty twill because my son often wears these at Little House events that are held in the summer, and so these are actually washable if he's doing heavy labor. You know, we can take the brass buckles off as well as the leather hardware and hand soak them in the sink. But that got me to thinking, so many of you last week when I shared my Prairie Wonderland decor, you loved the little ornaments that I had handcrafted for my tree. and asked if I wouldn't share a tutorial. So for today's craft, we will be doing just that. So let's head on into the crafting area. Every year I create about 20 handcrafted ornaments, and I always save one for my daughter and one for my son, and the remainder are passed out to close family and friends. They're often tied on to presents and little packages, or even just simply taken off the tree if someone stops by to visit. And I love to share how I create each year's ornaments in the hopes that others will also create a little piece of their heartfelt homemade to share with others. That is definitely an ongoing theme throughout the books in the Little House series, particularly at Christmas time. Because they didn't have a lot of money, the Ingalls family found various ways of creativity to give one another a gift at Christmas. So for this year's ornament, you will need 3 pieces of paper. And this was a Harlequin romance book that the cover was missing that I found at Goodwill for 25 cents. So I didn't feel too bad about taking apart a paperback book. I would absolutely never take apart a classic book that was in good condition, but you can find books that are in rough shape at thrift shops and estate sales, garage sales. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to have 3 sheets of paper, and they often come out of the book fairly quickly if the spine is loose, which was the case in the book that I have. You will want to find a printable image that you love. Now, since my theme this year is the Little House series by Laura Ingalls Wilder, I specifically looked for images that showed snowy little scenes of getting ready to go out in the cold or playing in the snow, sledding, as you saw in the introductory video that featured the ornaments. So once you've printed out your images, which I was able to get 3 in a standard size piece of cardstock, you'll then want to punch out the image. And I have a wide variety of paper punches that I use. But if you don't have any paper punches, you absolutely can just use scissors to cut out a circle. And how you would do that is just take a glass and put it over the image and pencil around it to create your perfect circle, and then just use your scissors. So it's a great project for children to practice their cutting skills. And then what I like to do is, if you can see, I'll try to see, can you see how there's a little bit of a glitter embellishment on Ma's collar and around here? You can maybe see it a little bit better in this image. So once it's punched out, I like to take glitter glue, and I often use Stickles because it has a nice fine tip, so I can really get detailed in the work. So I punch the image out, then I add a little bit of glitter glue, set it aside to let it dry. So once your glitter glue has dried on the image, you will attach it to a paper doily. And doilies come in packs that look like this in a wide variety of sizes. You can often find them in the cake decorating aisle at your grocery store or crafts store. So once you have that ready, you're ready to start creating the rosette. And so that is where your pieces of paper are going to come into play. And if you can see, this side is scalloped and this side is plain. And how I created the scallop were these little craft scissors that have a special blade. If you can kind of see that. And I have found these at craft stores, of course, but also the dollar store. I sometimes come across them at garage sales. There are paper punches, and this is kind of fun, that you can also use like this. You can see that that creates that, and you just keep going down. So, pinking shears are also great, but please make sure they are not sewing pinking shears, because cutting paper does dull the blades of scissors that are reserved for sewing and cutting fabric. So I just kind of eyeball the edge of my scissors right along the edge of the paper. And then I'm also lining up where I just cut before. I'm making sure that I'm lining up that same design. So then, you know, you take off about that much. And then if you remember from school, making a little accordion fan or accordion turkeys. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold the paper in half this way, and then you're going to go in the opposite direction. Okay, so you're going to start creating a zigzag pattern. So you can kind of see what I'm doing, and you do want to take care that you get them the same measurement. Okay, so you want to slow and steady wins the race. And to find which is the best folded size for your size paper, it does require a little bit of trial and error. After a while, for me, I knew that if I kept it to 2 rows of print, that it would be fairly evenly spaced. So when you're finished like that, it's going to look like an accordion. And then you're going to fold that in half and really pinch the end that's folded and kind of fold the sides. So then it's going to look like that. And you're going to add a little bit of glue. Now you're going to need a total of 3 to make the ornament. And on one of them, you'll want to attach a little loop of ribbon. And I just buy ribbon in bulk, but it's also great if you have some ribbon scraps that you can use up. And I just, for ease of application, I go ahead and I glue the 2 ribbon ends together, and then I just add a little bit of glue to the center, and then I lay down the ribbon. The reason I don't put glue on the very outside is because I'm going to squish it together, and so the glue kind of spreads out. So if you added glue to the very outside, it would make a mess, and also the edges of your little rosette would not look as good. So then it looks like this. So you're going to make 3 of these. Only one of them has to have the ribbon. And then you're just going to glue each of these pieces together. Now, I do take care to pay attention that there is a definite front and back, and you can kind of see on the back is where my last folded ends are. So, you know, I do kind of take a note of what direction the last fold of paper is going so that they're all going the same way. And then I just join it like this, and then I'm pinching it, and you can even kind of tap it on the table to make sure that they're even, okay? And it doesn't take long for the hot glue to dry. But if this is a project that you're going to do with your children, what you can do is use some craft glue, just because the hot glue gun is a little bit dangerous. And so again, you'll kind of pinch it. And then of course you don't want to sit here while it dries. So these nice little alligator clips, and you can get those in the hair care section and in the craft section. I just pinch those and then just set it aside to dry, and then you can keep building sort of like an assembly line fashion. And using the craft glue will keep your children safe while creating this project. Now, once you have the 3 edges together, you'll have this last edge right here, and you can kind of see that it's loose in the middle too. So I add a dollop, and then I also take care to kind of put it right in that center, right there. And then you carefully bring it up together, pinching it. Okay. And then you can kind of see how the rosette is then fashioned. And then I just kind of double check, like, okay, this is a little bit loose, so I'm going to add another little drop of glue there. And again, paying attention to what side is the back, and you can kind of see this is where it's folded, you know, whereas this looks nice and smooth all together. So this is the back. So on the back, just for a little decorative element, going with my theme, you can do a little wooden heart, and that is in the woodworking aisle of craft stores. These I actually got at the dollar store, the little hearts. And there's also little wooden snowflakes, which that was really nice for my theme of Prairie Wonderland. So we're going to do just a little dot of glue, just like that. That's right on the back, just to give it, if it swings on the tree, there's a little pretty detail. You know, I always want to make sure that the back of something looks as good as the front. And then we're taking our doily and our image of Laura playing out in the snow with her cousins. And you don't need much, just a little sort of a snail like of glue. And I'm paying attention to where my hanging loop is against my design, and I'll show you what I mean. And you just lightly press down. Okay. And what I meant by that is this is the top, So I wanted to make sure that my image was also in alignment with the ribbon hanger. You know, I wouldn't want it going sideways. And there you go. It is a fun little craft, and there's a wide variety of ways that you can make this your own. Instead of an old book, you can use old sheet music, you can use construction paper. If you wanted, you have an excess of your child's school picture, you could put that on the front. Grandparents would love that ornament. And I hope you have enjoyed this cute little ornament craft. I hope you have enjoyed this week's story and craft time. Next week, I will be back with the very last installment of Prairie Wonderland, and I hope that you will think that I have saved the best for last. My son will be home from college, and my daughter will be home visiting as well, so we will be gathering together to create something very special for you. Now, I know it's always sad for some of you when the Lessons with Laura ends, but the good news is that I have something very special planned for the month of February, and I will be revealing that in next week's video. I do hope you have a wonderful holiday week. Many of you are celebrating Hanukkah, as well as some of you are preparing in these last days before Christmas. As always, I'm so thankful that you've come along with me on this little house journey, and leaving a thumbs up or a comment down below is always greatly appreciated. For those of you who do better with a step-by-step tutorial, you can find that on my website today, and that is also linked down below in the description box. Thank you so much.